This Saturday, November 20th, 2021, Showtime Shawn Porter is poised to provide what many people think is Terrence Bud Crawford's stiffest test at the welterweight division when he challenges Crawford for Crawford's WBO welterweight title. This is a fight that is anticipated by boxing fans because both fighters have shown their wares in the division and have put on great displays against their contemporaries and colleagues. Seeing that Crawford has come up from the lower weight classes, many people feel that this will be Bud's stiffest test at this particular weight division, but you could never rule Crawford out because he is a veteran himself, though coming up from the smaller weights. He's just the type of fighter that is exciting, provides high entertainment in knockouts, and he doesn't mill about. Crawford has to this point proven that he is the goods, but Showtime Shawn Porter, who has known him for most of his life, thinks that he has what it takes to check Bud at the door. Let's talk about it. This is an intriguing matchup, and we all cannot wait until this fight takes place. This Saturday, November 20th, 2021, we'll see the return to the ring of WBO welterweight titleist Terrence Bud Crawford as he takes on what many feel that may be his stiffest competition at the welterweight division thus far in Showtime Shawn Porter. This is one of the greater fights in the fourth quarter of this year that I've been talking about. We have been treated to some fine boxing over the past month and a half, and it will continue this Saturday. The two gentlemen held what was considered one of the final pressers of this event. The weigh-in will be Friday, and both men are settling in as final preparations have wound down, and they gave pretty much what was a media day. Both camps have spoken about the success they expect to have when this fight takes place. I'm of the belief that Showtime Shawn Porter is in a position to try to prove to Bud Crawford that he belongs at the top of the division, as well as many have considered Crawford, though many also have considered that Crawford hasn't been really tested. With the resume that includes the likes of Adrian Broner, Keith Thurman, Andre Berto, Adrian Granados, Danny Garcia, Yordenis Ugas, and Earl Spence Jr., Porter has seemingly fought a who's who in the welterweight division, including the likes of Kell Brook, Paulie Malignaggi, and Devon Alexander, But is that enough for the gentleman that many feel is pound for pound the best fighter in boxing, Terrence Bud Crawford? Now, the thing about Crawford is he is 5'8" with a 74-inch reach and has a record of 37-0 with 28 KOs. Crawford has stopped his last 8 opponents. I was counting as I was reading over his records, because Crawford has proven since becoming undisputed at 140 pounds that he is one of the best fighters in the sport today. Will that be enough against Showtime Shawn Porter? I think so. But what's very interesting is the fact that both men have something to prove going into this fight. And when fighters have something to prove, typically something pops off. Showtime Shawn Porter is the type of fighter that brings high energy. He brings a frenetic pace of punches. He mixes his punches up well. And though he, at 5'7" with the 69.5-inch reach, likes to get close to his opponents, in recent fights he has shown a propensity to show angles and to attack toward the inside, but coming in on angles. Will this be something that can offset Crawford, who can equally fight effectively from orthodox or southpaw position? Both men will use the jab as a weapon and sometimes as a sense of trying to score points. It depends on what the opponent is doing. Personally, I feel that Bud Crawford will utilize a lot of Porter's aggression against him. Though in the press conference, he spoke of Bud being at one time an emotional fighter. But I do believe that Bud has become a patient fighter. Certain aspects of that patience has shown itself, particularly when he faced off against Kell Brook in his last outing. Brook took the lead early and came in with the mindset that he was going to be stronger than Crawford. A bad mistake there, because most people don't realize that Crawford is very strong for the weight. As he went rounds with Kell Brook, Bud began to show that he was basically downloading data as Brook got out to an early lead. But the fight was over quickly. When he turned southpaw, he began to score from that angle, which caused Brooks some problems. A right hook over the top of Kell Brook's jab caught him, and next thing you know, Kell Brook was out of there. It was over in a flash. All punching power from Bud Crawford, a man who many feel that is smaller coming up from the lower weights, but he has had a chance to grow into his body as a welterweight, and a lot like Tommy Hearns, he has a thin, slim, muscular, reedy type body build, but he has dynamite in both hands. There was a time when Shawn Porter was showing a lot of power, but he has opted to more punch and volume, taking power off of the shots to score multiple combinations with the shots being thrown at a faster, quicker pace. This is really not going to make a difference when it comes down to the Omaha, Nebraska native, which is Bud Crawford. Crawford relishes when someone steps up to challenge him, and this fight will be no different. Though he initially did not want to face someone whom he called a friend in Porter, and I can understand why that was initially, but now that it's on the line for his title and also the prestige that is supposed to come with a victory over a veteran, former two-time champion like Showtime Shawn Porter, Crawford is chomping at the bit to get at him in this fight. So much so that he has even sought to petition the WBC to become the #1 contender for Errol Spence Jr.'s WBC welterweight title. That option was denied, but you can't blame Crawford for trying. In doing this, he basically is sending a message that says that he wants to challenge Spence. Some people feel that Spence may have been avoiding the fight with Crawford, not being afraid, but just seeking other business sense, and even stating at one time that if Bud wanted the fight so bad, consider taking a 60-40 purse split and we can get it on. That's not something Crawford was looking to do. He feels he's being disrespected because he's been a champion longer than Spence, though it coming up from the smaller weight classes. These other men that I've mentioned that Porter has fought, including Porter himself, have primarily campaigned at welterweight. The mere fact that Bud and his camp has said he could have turned pro at welterweight, but they thought they would get him more championship rounds in by starting off at a lower weight, getting him that championship experience, and then moving on up to settle at welterweight. The only thing is that he was not invited to the dance of the fighters that were on the PBC side of promotions. Politics are always in the way with boxing. It's not Porter's fault. It's not it's not Bud Crawford's fault. It's not Errol Spence's fault. But those people who manage and promote the fighters, they do this oftentimes just to stave fights out, trying to make it a slow burn so that they can have a bigger payoff later. The fights with these men were most hot a few years ago when Bud first moved up as an undisputed champion. And I do believe had it been anyone of a lesser talent, those other fighters on the PBC side would have fought Crawford already. He has a lot to bring to the sport in the ring. Not much on the personality side, because he's pretty much a soft and quiet-spoken person. Everyone can't be vociferous and being out there in front of the cameras and the microphones spewing things every moment that they get the chance. And some fighters who do exercise that, we kind of wish that they would be like Bud. There was a time when people were trying to say that he needed to speak more. When he did begin to express himself more, the critics came at him for that as well. So, what is a fighter to do? Bud can stick to his guns as far as just being a professional fighter. He knows exactly how to handle himself, and he knows how to bring people into the fights when he's scoring knockouts, because that's what people really wants to see. Porter, on the other hand, has been there and done that as far as this dance. And being the type of fighter that Porter is, he's the type of fighter that will try to entertain as much as he can. His action plus style is constantly moving, constantly being aggressive, is entertaining. He's going to have to be a little bit cautious in this fight though. Bud is very adept at catching fighters on the inside, catching fighters with shots that they don't see. So Sean can't be too reckless in this fight. He has to be calculating. He has to keep his defense. And he has to remember at all times, whether he's pulling out or he's coming in, he's got to be covered. Will he be able to maintain that type of focus for 12 rounds? It remains to be seen, because we saw in his fight against Adrian Broner, going into the last championship rounds, he got dropped by Broner. We saw in his fight against Earl Spence in the 11th round, a flash knockdown was scored there by Spence. Crawford is definitely the type of fighter you have to watch him every minute of every round. Otherwise, he very well may get you. Sean will have to focus up. Now, Crawford, on the other hand, he will be in a position to do something exciting, capitalizing on Porter's mistakes. Will that be something he's able to do? We'll see. But the thing about it is, to be able to catch a guy when he's coming in is Crawford's specialty. We've seen him do it countless times against other opposition. Even though there are people who feel that Crawford may not have the chin, I beg to differ on that. A lot of times when he was reckless himself, he got rocked being a little overzealous. It can happen to anyone. It happened against Gamboa, and it also happened against Egidius Kavalauskas. But he only proved to be rocked but not hurt in those instances, coming back to stop both men. Crawford is a true assassin, and with the type of punches that he throws, he often catches his opponents. Most he have stopped with shots that they don't see. Another thing that he's a master at that you don't see a lot of these days, he knows how to punch with the opponent. Most fighters of today aren't prepared for that. When you're punching with a guy, you can often catch him off guard. And that's where he hangs his hat at the end of the day. I think that this fight is going to be a coronation type battle for Bud Crawford. He wanted so badly to come to the dance and be invited when these men were all campaigning just a couple of years ago. But seeing that the disrespect, the fan base that supports them and not he, and even the disrespect that comes from the boxing scribes that have held him as a top pound for pound fighter, but have continuously sought to put others in front of him, like doping cheat Canelo Alvarez and Vasily Lomachenko, who has ran away from competition that was stiff enough to challenge him when he was campaigning at the lower weights. So, will Bud prevail in this fight? It remains to be seen. I do know that something about being friends between these two men can kind of put a wedge in between what we may see. But I do believe at the end of the day, Bud Crawford will set those things aside and will catch up to Sean Porter late in the fight. Sean Porter has never been stopped before, but I do believe this could definitely be a first time. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pick Bud Crawford by a late round TKO. There's just something about this man, and when these challenges take place, he can rise to the occasion. Porter has suffered defeat to fighters who were not necessarily as good as Bud Crawford. And he will be focused and he will be amped to the gills to fight Bud. But there's something about Crawford that will allow him to raise his game as well. When a fighter such as he is as talented as he is, he has to fight the best in the sport to maintain some type of interest. And I do believe that's what we'll see in this fight on this night. Those are my thoughts. What do you think? Leave comments and let's discuss it further. Both men will give as good as they can. But I do believe that Terence Crawford will prevail here. It won't be easy, but with the determination that he has to certify himself as the best, he's going to do what he can. Shout out to the LDBC, the Lions Den Boxing Community, and Liberated Perspective, a third eye view of the world. For more content such as this, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. Until the next time we speak, peace to everyone out there, and everyone please remain safe.